Hello and happy Monday morning, everyone. This is officially, I believe, our last Member Monday Spotlight until 2023. So today I sent a newsletter out and I got more bounce backs than I've gotten all year long. Everybody's on vacation now between the end of the year. But some of us, like Katrina Sawa and myself, we are still at it and we are still showing up. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today because we're going to dive in with Katrina, which is absolutely a wonderful good friend of mine, as well as a member of the LEAP community, in talking about how to consistently sell your high price ticket programs. And I think that's an area where a lot of people struggle. Don't you think, Katrina?
Yeah, well, number one, they struggle with actually creating it or pricing it because the first thing is, well, I can't possibly be worth 10,000, or what am I going to do for someone for $10,000 or 15 or $20,000? So the first thing they have to get beyond is the mindset that they're worth it, right? And what are they going to do for that money? And then, of course, we have to figure out how to fill it.
Right. Yeah. I think you're really truly on when we talk about mindset. I was having a group client call this morning that we do every Monday morning to get us set up for the week. And the mindset was a big thing we were talking about this morning, because once you've made the decision, then the universe start moving in the direction of everything towards you. But you've got to make the decision first. And that decision is on how you're going to do it. That decision is on price. That decision is all what's included in that high price ticket item. And I think many people watching might say, well, that's great. I've created high price ticket items before in programs, and I've priced them what I felt like, the program was worth, but then I struggled selling them. So Katrina, what happens with your clients when you talk to them about that?
Yeah. Well, the most important thing is that the high end clients will come when they're ready. So we have to nurture them along the way. Sometimes people will find us and bam, we're exactly what they were looking for and they're ready to dive in right now. But that's not as common as someone who's been watching you and following you and listening to you and reading your stuff, right, and then decides to slowly put their hand up and go, okay, maybe I might be interested in talking to you about that, right?
Yeah.
Or you wow them with a 3-day event, which is very common. The common way has been for many years. I got sold into my first coaching program with my first mentor at her 3-day enrollment event back in 2005, right? And so it's been going on for a long, long time to do a 3-day enrollment event where you give a lot of great content, but then you make an offer to a high-end thing. And it worked for many years. It's not working as much.
So let's talk about that. Because Katrina, you just had an event at the beginning of December. So talk us through why you did the event the way you did it, and the timing of when you did it, and what were the results from your event.
Right. And so you see people out there doing these 3-day events, and some people have hundreds and hundreds. Some people have thousands of people at their events.
Yeah.
I've never had an event that was a 3-day enrollment event, not a speaker, a bunch of speaker type of event, but a 3-day enrollment of my own where I've had more than 100 people. Honestly, that's just the truth. And I've been doing them since 2009. Okay. But I will tell you, I consistently sold from those events, like the traditional way to do an event and then you sell. But in person has been working, I think, personally, for me. And a lot of people I talk to, in person is easier to get people to enroll in your programs than virtual. And so many people have gone to virtual events, myself included, for the last 3 years. And some have been really good, but they're kind of spotty, I think. Yeah. I think it's harder to see the consistent conversion with a virtual event as I don't know, that's just my experience.
There's some people that I feel have been consistent with those, but I do see that a lot of people are going back into person. I just had a client of mine throw a really big 2-day event instead of a 3-day event, in early November. And she enrolled about 25% of conversion of what was in the room. And she consistently had 40 to 45 people
Yeah.
in person in the room. So that's a really high conversion rate,
Right.
right, for the low amount of number of people in the room. But the concentration was on getting the right people in the seats. And
Yes.
then the 2 days worked really well because people really didn't feel like it was drug out, or, on that third day, sometimes you have people that will, bail out on you. So I love the 2 day, 2 and 3 days. I think 1 day events are also awesome. You could do a 1 day workshop. And in that 1 day workshop, you teach something enough for people to get a feel of who you are, right? How
Yeah.
you teach, what you know, and then you can enroll them into something at the end of that workshop as well.
And I think the number of days depends on the price point
It
you
always
are
does. Yeah.
offering. So if you're 5,000 or less, then a 1 or 2 day is okay. If you're up to 10,000, maybe 2 days. But typically it's been, if you're 10,000 or more, you need 3 days because they need 2 nights and they need that time with you to
Yeah.
really get that energy and that trust built up. That's been the tradition. And I think it's still true for that.
Yeah.
We're talking about how to consistently sell high end here, right?
Yep.
I still think it's getting really good with those one-on-one conversations, and that is your bread and butter. And
Yeah.
you just have to constantly be filling your pipeline with new people. So you have to do all the marketing things to get the new people coming in. You have to be really good at nurturing that list, not just
Mhm.
by email, but by phone and direct mail. You have to be the one they think about when it comes to them wanting a solution for the problem, right? You have to be the one that's on top of the list, which means you have to be in their face, in their inbox, in their mailbox, everywhere. So that is, I think, the key. The key is to consistent marketing, follow up, and sales, and all of that
Yeah.
process is going to lead to a lot more consistent high-end clients, period. I
Right.
mean, you can try
Absolutely.
all the events, but it is not as easy to get a lot of people there. When I was doing them in person, I was getting anywhere from 50 to 75 people in person. And yeah, I would sell about 30% of the room,
Yep.
which was very common. And that was great as long as they came and showed up, right? As long as they, and there's just, but there's nothing like just consistently filling your pipeline and consistently offering calls with the people who are ready to talk to you.
Well, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about how you really got into doing what you're doing and how long you've been doing it? Because that really lends the credibility of who you are today and the clients that you serve.
Yeah. I mean, I started 20 years ago. I was in advertising sales for the local newspaper in 2000 and I'm sorry, 19. I don't even know. It was 20 years ago. Like, what year are we in? Like, it was like
Like 2002. Yeah.
well, I was in the advertising in 2000, and then I was working for a private client in marketing and all that. And I just loved the small business owners, but they just didn't know what they didn't know.
Mhm.
Right. And they'd be throwing money at the ads and throwing money at the different random places, right? Like they're doing now, like you're doing now with boosting and Facebook ads and random posting, because you don't really have the full marketing lead gen sales process pattern down. And that
Mhm.
is so key. And so you have to get really consistent, and you have to bring in so many more people than you even think you do. So you can't just say, well, I've got in, 50 new people this month. Well, that's great, but you probably need 500. Listen, like literally. So you have to be
Yeah.
doing more things that bring in high
Yeah.
traffic, like speaking and doing giveaways and doing some summits and doing joint ventures and affiliate marketing. Those are the things that are bringing in higher quantities of traffic.
Mhm.
But you don't do that. Don't turn on that marketing hose unless you have those systems set up with that website and those pages and those opt-ins processes and those videos on every single page of your website. And I mean, you can, but I mean, it's so much more effective if you
Yeah.
stop, set up the systems, set up the automation, set up the responders and all the emails and all the stuff that you need, and then turn on the marketing hose,
Yeah.
because it's just missed opportunity if you don't do all of that.
Yeah. And that's what makes doing business easy, because if you don't have all of those set up and then you're showing up on summits and doing giveaways and all these people are opting in, now they're like one and done. They're not getting any indoctrination of a nurturing sequence
Yep.
that starts. And then you're having to manually send them emails and
Yes.
follow up with them. And let's just face it, there is not one person in business I know that has that much time to
No.
follow up with people manually. So the automation is what sets up the ease in doing business. So now you know they're being nurtured, and then you can go in, and anyone new in the last 30 days or 60 days that, has opted in, you can send them a special invite for something. And there's so many ways that you can utilize that data. But you're right, having the automation set up is key. And I know you're a whiz at that, Katrina, and you work with your clients all the time about seeing where those holes are in their business, where they need to patch those up so that they don't start sinking immediately when they go out and, get in the race.
Yeah. It's really figuring out that process for you. And again, it doesn't really matter about the technology that you're using as long as
Yeah.
you're using something that's efficient. So too many people are recommending certain technologies, and I don't do that. I'm like, first I'll find out what you're in, and if it's sufficient, great. We just need to set up the processes in that system. I don't want people to change systems and learn a new system because that's cumbersome, right?
Yeah.
But yes, you can be in manual labor chaos is what I call it. And you can really only manage maybe a couple dozen leads a month. Let's face it, if you're doing it manually, which is not enough,
Mm-mm.
or especially if you want high end.
Yeah.
And when you think of high end, another thing to think about is, okay, well, what's the number, the dollar figure that you can say today? And that's how much it is today. That's okay. I mean, you can push a little bit, but don't push to where you're uncomfortable saying that dollar figure.
Right.
So I always say, don't, price your programs at as much as you can say without stuttering is the
Right.
price, right? Because if you stutter, you lose the sale, right? If you go, I can't
Yeah.
$5,000, then people are gonna be like, so,
Yeah. And
and then
everything.
just keep raising it to your confidence.
Yeah, I love that. Everything Katrina's talking about is really attracting that right client. There is a client at every price point. And I
Yes.
just want everyone to hear that there is a client at every price point. So if you're struggling and your prices are low to begin with, those are the people that you're going to attract. If you want high end clients and you're selling high end ticket programs, those are who you're going to attract. You just have to stand firm in those prices and you'll attract them. I mean, that's what the Leap community is all about. It's about the visibility to expand that influence so you can attract those right clients. Now, I know you have a new quiz that you just set up. Do you want to share with everyone what that quiz is so we can get those links out there?
Yep. Yep. So the quiz is the tool that will help you see where the holes are in your business, your marketing, your follow-up, your sales processes. And so it has 5 different areas, and you'll rate yourself and just be honest, because then you'll be able to really see where you have room for improvement. And
Yeah.
it's not that you have a downfall or anything. It's just it's humanly impossible to learn everything about the 462 hats we have to wear as an entrepreneur and master them all. So
Right.
just figure out where your holes are, and then either figure out yourself how to fill those holes to bring in more people and more money, or get help in those areas, because they are the bread and butter of building the business. They really
Yeah.
are.
And
Mhm.
you can find that quiz at jumpstartyourbizquiz.com, and we'll have the link available for all of you. I know I'm showing it on the screen right now, but we'll have that available for you in the notes so that you guys can click on that link easily and go check that out. And none of us really know where we are. I'm just going to say that right now until you take a quiz and then it's glaringly obvious where you are. It's kind of like anyone who is dieting and says, "Oh, I don't eat that many calories a day," until they track all of the
Which is
calories they
exactly what
eat.
I did this year, and I lost 40 pounds. So do
See?
it, you guys. Seriously, whether it's with your health, your diet, yeah, or your
When we
business.
pay attention, right? When we are paying
Yes,
attention to where we're putting our energy and we are tracking, you really don't know what your conversion rate is. You don't need, most people know their lag numbers. Your lag numbers are going to be your numbers of the results from what you're doing. It's the lead numbers that most people don't pay attention to. The
they do.
lags are just what happens because of your efforts. It's the lead numbers. If you say you're going to do these three, put these three implementations in your business, and then you do it, you've got to measure those results so that you can see if they're working or not. Or did you
Yeah,
waste your time? Or, is it something that is causing people to opt out? Or do you have more opt-ins?
I
Measuring is
agree.
so important. That's why every tool out there has, even Instagram, right, has a way for you to measure your results of a reel or a post or a story. All of those dashboards are there for you to measure what's happening. So, Katrina, what would you say to someone if they're like, yeah, I had an okay year, but I really want to sell more high ticket items and programs, and I feel like I need some help with my marketing? Where should they reach out to? What should they do? Should they take the quiz first, or what should be their next steps with you?
Take the quiz first. It'll lead you to a couple steps too, depending on what you score yourself at.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk to anybody. Come on. Like I just want more people to make more money and make a
Yeah.
bigger impact faster. So
Yeah.
it's all about speed. Money follows speed. Now, if you've got to have a product mix though. Don't just have a high end and no low end. You need a wide variety. But I will tell you, it is just as easy to sell one person a $10,000 thing than it is to sell. I'm sorry, it's much easier to sell a one person 10,000 than it is 100 people $100 thing.
So
So
true.
really think about that, because if you need to make a good bigger goal, then you need to raise your rates and you focus on the higher. You can always drop them into a lower if they don't fit in the
Right.
higher. But if you start with the lower, it's really much harder to go higher from
Yeah.
there. So have that conversation. And if you don't have a high end program, you'll never sell one. So just create one right now. I don't care what's in it and who you think it's for. But if you don't put it out there, no one's going to buy it. So
That's
put it
right.
out there and see what happens, and you'll get attached, and you'll get those conversations going.
Well, you guys can connect with her and DM her if you are located on Facebook or on LinkedIn, or you can find her at jumpstartyourbiz.com, and go find her out there as well. Katrina's pretty easy to find. So just look up Katrina Sawa on social media, LinkedIn as well, and you guys will find her. It's a pretty easy name to remember. She is the Jumpstart Queen and marketing as well. And thank you so much, Katrina, for being my friend, being part of this community. We love you so much. And I hope all of you have an amazing holiday for whatever it is that you're celebrating throughout now and the rest of the year, and have a safe and healthy, happy new year wherever you're traveling with your friends and family. And we'll see you in the new year. Bye bye, everyone.